manufacturing, technology, hot topics, and a little bit of tomfoolery. This is the MTD Podcast.
Hello and welcome to today's very special podcast. I'm joined by my good friend Mark Deadman, Colin the cat.
Hold on, I'm not a good friend.
Who's your friend, Colin?
Certainly not
Tom
friend.
Foolery. He's back.
Tom's
he's
back.
been away for a few weeks.
Tom is in the dungeon.
Where have you been then?
I've been to Taiwan. I've been to Holland. I've been to hell and back, but we won't talk about that. Although, if anybody sees a random person sporting an MTD jacket, that's because they nicked it from my house.
Yeah, sorry to hear about that. They also took your car, and evidently the jacket's worth more than a car.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
Was it an automated theft?
Yeah.
Oh, nice segue into what's the theme this week then, Mark?
Automation.
What does automation mean to you?
Exactly. What is automation, Mark?
Okay, Industry 4. Start there. Industry 4 is obviously one of the buzzwords in the marketplace about manufacturing being very efficient, probably led by the Germans.
The Germans?
Robots can be anything from the likes of the ABBs, the KUKAs of this world, but also down to other small automated cells like a rower, for instance.
But I want to take a step back to Industry 4.0. I mean, people think, what is that? Basically, it's just linking in your software with the machines and things like that. And
as the Germans would say, data.
Data. What is the data? So, from my take on my notes here, Henry Ford invented what I class as automation in 1913.
Oh, look at you with your notes.
Which arguably is Industry 2 or 3.
Oh, I'd say 1.0. No, Adam Smith then, if we're going proper, the economics and the pin factory, that was the first production.
Arguably. But
1913,
Henry Ford, the first production line, and there was elements of automation in there. Industry 3, mass adoption of automation. Industry 4, getting the data, the connectivity, putting it all together.
Someone has been on Google this morning, haven't they?
No, I actually knew that.
Well, if you think about our industry, you've got wonderful machine tool manufacturers out there, which probably haven't changed the way they build the machines to a certain extent, but it's the actual software that actually drives it, which then leads to taking that data in the cloud and actually sharing it with the mass or your customers to get the best efficiency out of that machine. Yeah,
but that also ties in with if the machine's not working, it might be vibrating, overheating, whatever, so they can identify it with that side of things as well, so they can fix it before it breaks.
But my view of automation is that most people a few years ago would have said robots, but there's so many more other elements to it. So you got machine tool manufacturers actually making their own pallet systems effectively to run lights out engineer, because customers wouldn't be able to be profitable to actually win work from the likes of the aerospace sector, the volume markets.
Well, I think that is the question, isn't it? $1 million question. What is automation? To me, automation can be something as straightforward as a bar feeder on a CNC lathe. Maybe it could be, is a twin pallet machine automated? There's an element there. The operator's still got to load it, but the machine will spin around. So that's arguably entry-level automation. But if you spoke to a non-engineer, they would say the picture you see on the BBC of the JLR production line with all these 6-axis robots coming in with welders, wouldn't they? That is the perception of automation to a non-engineer.
Wasn't it that advert, I'm showing my age here, was it the Fiat production line many years ago on TV? They had their automation line there, they all go... I'll get blank stares here from you guys.
I think you're making it up.
Didn't they paint the car or something? The robot painted the car, which obviously we know they do.
Sorry. A good testament a few years ago, it was about 3 years ago, I went down to South Coast with, as they were known, Vero or EdgeCam, Hexagon Manufacturing Intelligence now, but the whole idea was going down there was talking about their software, and the reason they actually bought the software because they ventured into having a machine tool with their first pallet system, which was from a rower, and within 2 months they ordered the same system, just purely because they could actually run lights out engineering, increase the volume, and go back to the customer and say we can take more work on.
How many pallets did it have?
Do you know what? I don't know. At a guess, I would say 24.
Right. Okay. Because you could buy machines where they've got 2 pallets, but you might be, it might be so successful like that one, your example there, but then you're limited. But that's not the case because you can add on pallets.
It depends on the size of the workpiece. Recently I was at a customer with DMG Morris, for instance, and they've got the RP systems there, and you can go about, I think, 12, 24. So it just depends on your workpiece, and obviously your work holding as well.
Yeah, and then you go to the top end, you've got I know Mazak offer a system, but Fast M's are probably the market leader. You pretty much cover the whole wall of your factory Cosworth's a good example of this. You whole wall of your factory with a custom-built automation system, and rather than plug in the automation in, you actually plug the machine in. I think there was 4 machines at Cosworth. Evidently, they're going to double that to 8. That actually loads the component, obviously the raw material, the billet, the casting, the forging, whatever it may be. It loads the actual cutting tools, believe it or not, so you don't have to double up on your tools. I have the same on every machine. It goes to a library up in the sky, essentially, and that's free, isn't it, up in the sky? So they grab it, bring it into the machine tool where the machining takes place. There's lots of different elements. You know, we've got the Robo Job, which is kind of a plug-and-play system. It means different thing to different businesses, but I think one thing we all agree on, if you don't automate, 5, 6, 7, certainly 10 years, you're going to be in a lot of bother. You won't be competitive, and I question whether you'll be trading. You've
got to automate, absolutely. It's all about, we're always on about investment, stuff like that, and machine tools. How far can you take a machine tool in terms of efficiency? I disagree
with that comment a little bit, Colin.
I'm not going to have a dust up with you.
You'll win anyway. But it's more from the point of view, if you're a precision engineer that is not into volume, why would you need automation?
No, totally disagree with that.
Okay.
Again,
same.
Because what you can do is, and an example, I've just knocked the microphone there. Sorry, everyone. Just
getting excited.
I'm getting excited. Leader Chuck, they sell Autogrip. They've got a robot arm that changes the chuck. So you can do batches of 20, 30. And the same with Halter CNC, we just taken on. That's geared up to doing batches of 20, 30. So you don't need big batch runs to be efficient. Absolutely not.
But some engineers are only doing, bespoke projects. So therefore, just one work piece. And that's what I'm talking about, is that there is...
Well, you need to be a bit clearer then, Mark.
Okay. My apologies.
Well, if you want to make money, automating low volumes is the way to go. I went to Thompson Aerospace a few years ago, DMG Mori account, Fast M's automation. From memory, there's about 5 machines there. You couldn't see any humans, obviously there, but there's one guy loading all the machines, and the average batch size was 8 components.
Big question then, if I'm automating, all my guys are going to be losing their jobs. Controversial.
Well, come to me last, because I may or may not have some data on this.
Google
carry
Joe,
on.
how are you?
Over the weekend, actually, I was actually reading a part of a white paper just purely about automation.
God, you need to get up in more for me.
The fallacy in the US was very much that automation is going to take jobs. It's not going to increase jobs, but in fact, it's reversed. It is that you don't necessarily need to have an engineer actually loading automation systems. So therefore, they can actually go, and the automation will do that itself. To a certain extent, those skilled people can be working on another job.
Yeah, because they've done their apprenticeships, got their qualifications. Why would you want someone like that who's a real skilled engineer and passionate about what they're doing, just loading billets all day? God.
Okay, so the International Federation of Robotics, IFR to their friends, predict.
Did you have some time on your hands this morning?
I just don't sleep. No. So by 2020. There'll be 1 million.
Next year.
There'll be 1 million jobs lost as a result of automation in the UK alone. 1 million jobs lost. The good news, it will create 2.3 million jobs.
Oh.
And for the mathematicians in the room,
fixing all the broken robots.
That's it. Yeah, that's a gain. That's a gain of 1.3 million.
I'll tell you what, you do get up early, don't you, James?
So essentially, what's happening there? People invest in robotics, automation, the business grows. So more CAM developers, more programmers, more goods in for dispatch, more people to write your invoices. Prosperity, increased sales, brings growth, and with growth comes jobs. So automation, without question, loses jobs, but it creates more than it loses.
Stunned silence there.
Yeah. Well, see you next week.
Going back to this company, I recently visited with DMG Mori, where they've got these 3 DMU 60s with the pallet systems on them. Where they've positioned their guys is because they work in the aerospace sector, is that they've got an assembly line for one of the main aircraft manufacturers I better not mention, but they've actually...
choice of 3?
Oh...
Well, yeah, they're not in Ireland. So what I'm saying is,
are you sure?
Is to be sure, they've actually positioned that to actually say let's use these skilled guys to offer something different that we can actually capitalise on from an aerospace sector.
I'm going to throw something at you guys. I want to go round. We take it a turn.
Physically, or
it's whatever. Name something like something that automation means to you, like robot arms, whatever. So you say one, you say one. Just go around, see how many we can come up with. How exciting is that? Robot arms.
Pallet systems.
Bar feeder.
Oh, he's sliding head. Mate.
Well, that's not automated. The bar feeder's the automation.
Oh, shut up. Anyway, moving on. Go quick. Next
that's
one.
a rubbish game.
Software.
AI learning.
Oh, rubbish.
I think he's.
Okay, just take your clothes off.
I
No,
wouldn't do that to anybody, even on a podcast.
And leave Tom alone.
As you know, I'm already sitting here naked, lads. Anyway,
face for radio.
Oy. Not very pleasant. Anyway, moving on, lads. So,
do you want some more statistics on robotics and automation?
Depends if
I know you sat there waiting, Colin.
Less interesting than the last ones, then no.
So, obviously looked at a number of reports and white papers online. The IFR are predicting 3% of jobs are at risk by 2020. By 2035, which isn't that far away really, 1 in 3 manufacturing jobs will be in danger as a result of automation. But there's still a net gain. So,
I presume
you're repurposing this skill.
It's not the government coming up with this because they can't sort out a Brexit.
No. If it was a government report, I wouldn't have wasted the 2 minutes it's taken on air. But also you could automate them, replace them with robotics.
But I also like to sort of touch on that it's automation. Also, is not necessarily just about the machine tool and actually physically cutting something. It's also about brings in a little bit of metrology, because some systems, for instance, they have vision systems, or they're actually looking at the tool breakage.
The ABB Fidio, as an example, that's got a vision system.
Exactly.
I know Gio's also to mention one at Brown Homes.
Yes, because they've got the Intelligent TechMan robot, which basically has got a vision system in it. So
sounds like a robot. I am TechMan. It does, isn't it?
Yes, but also
no, it wasn't a joke.
No, it's just a fail, Joe. Just a general fail, I'm afraid, mate.
But when you've got automated cells that are sort of continuously making parts, let's say for aerospace or the automotive sector, how do you actually sort of look at the tool life, for instance, like Renishaw, for instance, they have laser probes, which are measuring the actual tool while it's actually cutting to make sure that there's no breakage, for instance, so therefore it doesn't stop the actual process.
And I think that's key. We talk about automation, robotics, bar feeders, all the rest of it. All that falls away if you don't have a reliable process. Right. If you've got a machine tool with a pallet load or a robot, whatever it may be, if you haven't got a stable process, it all falls over. You might need a probe to inspect the billet, so that make sure the billet's in the vise correctly. If you're loading the vise, you might want to billet the job to see what job number to flag up in the control. Tool breakage, if a tool breaks and your machine isn't intelligent enough to know, you're loading billets and it's coming out
things
of scrap.
Like tool breaks, isn't that sort of standard on machine tools
now
anyway?
No, you'd be amazed.
Okay.
No, you'd be amazed.
You can see as a machine, I know you can double up and have a tool measuring system and things like that. So as an example. But all about the automation, I'm going to buy a robot, whether it's ABB, Fanuc, Halter, name some more here, guys, Brown and Holmes.
Fanuc, Staubli, Kawasaki.
Exactly.
Kumau.
Who?
I'm joking.
Yeah.
I've got this fantastic new robot. A, will it fit on any machine? And B, I don't know how to program it. How easy is it to program?
Well, that's very much down to the actual providers of the robot, because you're not just actually buying a robot; you're actually buying the solution to actually make you more efficient for the job.
Are you selling robots?
Robots?
Robots, yeah.
Are they from Africa?
Have you got a new agency we don't know about?
No, I'm just
You're very pro-robotics.
If I'm honest with you, I find some automation quite boring as engineering, because really it's just one part, bang, 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 all the time.
Boring.
But you cut...
That is controversial. You can't say it, mate.
Can't even say it. But what I like is precision engineer, but we would not be competitive in the UK without automation. Okay,
that brings me on to something, Colin. Sorry to butt in, as I always do.
No comment.
Adoption. And I don't
I know my mum and dad are. How rude. Don't break that. I've had a bad week.
Have you seen his kryptonite?
Yeah. No, so mass adoption of automation in the UK.
You Googled something else.
No, I haven't. I can read and write proper. So
it's from Gloucestershire way, isn't you?
In all these reports, they're based on the same thing. Employees per 10,000 robots. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
How many robots per 10,000 people? Yeah.
We lag massively behind.
So, I'll give you a clue. Korea is first with 322,000 robots. Yeah.
Per 10,000 people.
He's writing this down, by the way, just to tell everybody.
They've got 32 robots per person. If my maths stands me correctly.
Well done. And if I told
I've
you,
got analogy.
Yeah. I've got some.
where do we think the United Kingdom? We're talking about automation every week here at MTD. Where do you think? Bear in mind, this is 12 months out of date. The 2018 figures aren't out.
Your wardrobe.
Where do you think we are in the list?
We're not into six figures, surely.
No, in terms what position? When you think of all these, these good countries like Germany, China, all the countries we know and love.
I reckon probably 30th or 40th.
So
don't tell us a figure. I want to guess a figure per 10,000. But where are we on the list? In the league table,
we are 22nd.
Oh, I was right. See, I told you.
You are
30.
Yeah.
How many per 10,000?
Well, I thought you were going to tell me.
I reckon 80.
You've done your research, Colin. You
No,
little.
there's a reflection behind you. No, that was 80.
No, it's actually 71.
There you go.
So we lag. But we lag behind drastically.
That's 12 months out of date. I've got some new data which I've just looked up. Actually, no, I've just made it up.
No, the figures aren't out according to IFR.
Oh my God,
but,
you need to get out more often, Jay.
But no, what joking aside, what that does tell us, we talk a lot about automation, but we're not adopting it.
But I just want to, seriously though, 322,000 robots per 10,000 people in Korea.
Yeah, a lot of electronics.
North and south.
Yeah. Well, if you look at when
you got me there.
When Apple started, I saw some statistics of something like, the base of like an iPad or the iMac, for instance, or the laptop version, is that they had something like 900 Fanuc robots actually just carving out the base at the end of the day, sort of non-stop, and that was years ago. So how that's changed, I really don't know. I'm sure it's increased because Apple.
The electronics sector is the second biggest sector for industrial robots, as we all know globally. What do you think number one is?
Automotive.
Colin?
Aerospace.
No, automotive. So 294,000 plus a few.
There you go, Dudley.
Okay.
294,000 robots were installed globally, 100,000-ish in the auto sector, 90,000 to the electronics, so Samsung, your Apples of the world, and the rest is everything. And it'll grow 350% in the next 10 years.
Here's a question for you. Bearing in mind the engine is changing rapidly in reference to most automotive, so therefore, do you think that will be the same, the way that cars are manufactured with battery-powered and hybrids more and more? Do you think that will change?
Well, personally, I think whether it's a mobile phone, a car, a house, you don't order anything now. You want everything different. You want it customized. You want your name on it. You want a different color. You want your wife's name on it, your children's name.
Girlfriend's name.
Yeah, my girlfriend's name. Thanks, Colin. So what I think you'll find is
trouble now.
You will have a production line. Car one might be a Polo. Second one might be a Passat. Third one may even be a BMW. It's all in the same group. And you have super factories building one-off cars, and they'll all follow each other, and there won't be a human being in sight. And I think we're pretty much there already. Tesla's, they've had to actually get rid of some robots and bring human beings back in, but the majority of the Tesla was what, as I suggest, and it will. And the limitation isn't the robots, the software.
And do you think there's going to be sort of technology transfer from that knowledge of actually sort of coming across from a different way of manufacturing a car to other sectors? So, for instance, are planes at some stage going to be generating their own power rather than using fuel?
Well, I know by 2020, Rolls-Royce will have their... Is it Rolls-Royce or Boeing? Someone. Rolls-Royce,
sure
Boeing.
Some sort of aerospace manufacturer.
Yeah, basically by 2020, they'll have a plane that flies on electric.
There's a lot going on in 2020, isn't there?
250 miles, so it's not going to get you to Spain. it might get you to France, where Mark lives. But no, what that tells you is when I won't be getting on a plane I won't buy a Tesla, let them get on an aeroplane that flies on electric. But we're getting there.
Going to need a long cable, aren't they?
We're getting there.
I think we need to get back on track to automation.
Right.
Really,
so I think
you asked the question.
We're going to have to roll up round up whatever the word is.
Wrap it up.
To keep ahead of the game, keep efficient, you're going to have to automate. I think that is.
And are UK engineers listening? I heard this from a machine tool builder. Mac 2016, 18% of their inquiries, they got asked to quote automation. Mac 2018, which was last year, as we know. What do you think it was? 18.
You kept waving your card around. I couldn't read it. It was 18%. Sorry,
it was 18 in 2016.
32.
It was 25. So there is an increase. Do we think that number would be bigger in 2020? I think so.
No.
I don't think it'll make any great big steps in comparison, but it will have to.
I've just had a thought.
Oh,
it happens.
careful.
Hold on.
Right, see you next week.
No. But someone said, I was chatting to actually Halter CNC, and they were talking about return on investment because, the robots aren't that. Are they cheap or expensive? They said return on investment between 6 to 18 months, which is a phenomenal figure.
You could argue it's less than that, Colin. I would.
I'm not going to.
If you look at the Robotreks from Lang,
yep.
The guys from Tame here in the UK, essentially, let's just pick a number out there. It's roughly 100 grand, all tooled up, plugged in, ready to go, roughly.
Yep.
A human being is going to cost you, unskilled, just capable of loading the billet, it's going to be what, 20 to 25,000, and that's one shift. The robot doesn't want to go to sleep, doesn't want a fag break. So I would argue,
does he need to go to the bathroom?
But I would argue if you finance the robot, the monthly outgoings is less than the human being stood there.
Absolutely.
So your return on investment is as soon as you press that green button, you're into profit. Would be my.
It depends on the size of the component. I would imagine that you're manufacturing.
Maybe, but there's variables, average component, hourly rates. But
to quote Gio, I think he's a master of this. Application specific.
Do you know what he likes that, doesn't he?
He loves that. Yeah, I still don't know what it means.
And
but
Paul Jones isn't here, so I've had no gags about my weight, which is quite refreshing.
Yeah.
Well, that can be arranged if you wish.
We could take the Mickey out of Paul Jones if you want, because he's not here.
Is that off automating his hair loss?
Is he? Oh, God. It's going to be a while then. Anyway, come on, wrap it up. Do we need to automate?
Well, the only thing I would say, to wrap my side up is that, it's all about data, Industry 4. We are, in the UK, we are fantastic engineers. However, we do lag behind very much Europe in reference to automation. Yep. And I think that the more and more you're buying certain machine tools from certain brands, if you're not ordering an automated cell of some kind, depending on the component, depending on the sector, you will not compete and you will not win work.
I'm shaking my head there. Any machine tool, I would say, Mark.
Okay.
There you go. Try that.
So just to wrap up from me, if you don't automate, in the next 10 years, you're going to be in deep trouble. You can automate now and not change your prices for 10 years and still remain competitive. I've seen that in a number of companies. And the machine tool, Matsura, Mazat, there's lots of different ones. But if you don't automate, you're going to be in serious trouble. You need to reshore from emerging countries. But incidentally, 24 on that list was China. So they're actually further behind than we are. But I know there's been mass adoption. So next year, they'll be up the league table.
It's been adopted?
Don't.
There's been lots in China. But anyway, let's wrap up. Thanks, guys. See you really soon.
Thank you.
Great.